Hey, what's up, guys? This is Ron from the Box and One podcast. Thanks for joining us for another episode. Today, it's Azam and I, and we're discussing the OG Anunoby contract extension, Barcelona and Liverpool, and a little bit of this and that at the end. As always, make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Box and One Pod. And thanks always for listening.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Box and One. I'm Azam Faruqi with my co-host Ron. Hey Ron, how's it going?
Not too bad. Pramit is away at a virtual Christmas party, I think. I didn't know that was a thing, but I guess anything is possible right now.
So he says. We'll take his word for it.
Yeah, we have to.
So a couple of interesting things happened since we last did our episode. So the big one that we want to talk about today, OG Anunoby signing a 4-year extension, $72 million. I guess that was probably plan A for the Raptors once word got out that Giannis signed an extension. It was probably should have been their biggest priority, and they got it done, which is great. Before the December 21st was the deadline, right?
Yeah, whatever Monday was that that was the 21st? Yeah. So it was a 6 p.m. deadline, and like a bunch of other deals trickled in. Jonathan Isaac signed a similar deal. I think maybe it was 80 million, so 20 mil per. Markelle Fultz also signed a similar-ish type deal. There were a bunch of deals that started trickling in. So, I mean, like you said, it was, I don't know if it was plan A. It was plan A after the Giannis signing.
For sure.
So I guess plan B-ish and then turned into plan A. Mm-hmm. It was the only thing that they really could do, because we talked about it in our last episode. You look at the free agent class, you can't really bank on anything in that class, and maybe it's going to, like I said before, maybe it's going to be something in the trade market. But I mean, getting this done, it had to be priority.
You're right. I mean, because Paul George is not available anymore. Rudy Gobert resigned.
Yeah.
I mean, so all the big guys were done. I mean, you wouldn't have had like that number one guy to begin with. So it makes sense to just, lock him up right now. And especially if he has a good year, this could be a steal.
Yeah, like if you remember, when was it? I don't know if it was like 2012-ish when they did the same with DeRozan, where they signed the early deal, got him on a club-friendly contract, and it ended up working out really well. I mean, this could backfire, but the thing is that if you look at OG's game and what he gives you right now, it's strictly built or not strictly, but mostly built on defense. And that's not going to go anywhere unless, I mean, barring any kind of injury or something like a catastrophic injury, but that defense is always going to be there. He's that effort type of guy. So what you're hoping for now is, in order for this to make it a real value signing, is, can his offense catch up to his defense? And maybe not even catch up, it's improve a little bit. Like we've heard over the past year, 2 years, that, he's a low efficiency, low usage guy with high efficiency. You don't really have to run anything for him. He still managed to get just over 10 points, I think nearly 6 rebounds, 1.5 steals a game. Good numbers, shooting solid percentages. But what you're hoping for is, especially with the departure of Ibaka, is hopefully he's going to start to get a little bit more of the offense going through him when maybe, Pascal's not on the floor, maybe running some pick and rolls with Kyle and Fred. I'm really interested to see, especially now that Chris Finch is on the staff, and everything that we've heard is that he's such a great offensive mind. I want to see what they're able to work with OG in the offense.
And that's interesting. So let me ask you this. What would you like to see him, if you want to see that the offense is improving, right, and you want to see him take that next step, what do you want to see from him?
Like I said, I would like to see him used like maybe at the 4, maybe at the 5. There was talk about it early on. Last year they kind of were forced to use him at the 5 a little bit, going a little bit small ball 5. I'd be interested
I
to
think
see
him
a little bit.
really small, right? No.
Yeah, really small. I mean, it's kind of like the pocket rockets type situation with PJ Tucker playing center, maybe on a little bit of a larger scale.
Mm-hmm.
But it just gives you another wrinkle. He's strong enough where he can match up with some centers, and he'll give them a different look where you have him standing on the corner hitting those corner threes. But I want him. That's mostly what they've been doing with him. It's just standing in the corner hitting those threes. I want to see him do, like I said, a little bit more in the pick and roll. I think he can give you like a little bit of pick and pop, flash to the basket off that pick, and just use him where you're actually running stuff for him specifically, rather than relying on him as a fourth or fifth option or just picking up the scraps on rebounds.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And comparing him, like, I mean, you signed Fred for what, like 21 mil for next year, and then him. So 18 doesn't sound too outlandish, right? Like, what are good comparables here?
So if you look, John Isaac is a good comp. Same-ish age, very similar stats, offensively, defensively. They're both considered very good defensive players. I think OG has the edge a little bit defensively, but it's right now what you're paying these guys for is the hope that they end up exceeding what they've been doing offensively in both cases. It's low risk. Like, 18 million, it does sound like a lot. And I was kind of going through Reddit, just taking a look at what people thought about it. And somebody mentioned that this is a Luol Deng type contract from years ago. And it's just funny that that's the comp, because, in those years, maybe like 10 years ago in the NBA, that was when teams were just, throwing bad contracts around. This is definitely not that. You've got a guy who's very young. Still, he's shown flashes of what he can do. And you look down the list, like the other guys, I'm just looking down at my list that I have, other guys around that range. You have both Bogdanoviches are roughly around the same amount. Rubio, Rozier, Bledsoe, Eric Gordon, Domantas Sabonis. Sabonis is a good comp. So like he's definitely worth it, especially because of the youth.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some of the players getting paid $18 million. Makes me a lot more comfortable with OG than some of those names out there.
Yeah, because you hear the number initially, you're like, that sounds like a lot of money. But in today's NBA, when you're getting that second contract and you've shown a little bit of something, teams are definitely a lot more willing to just throw a little bit of money at you. Another guy that I just remembered that got 15-ish million, I think, is Luke Kennard. Yeah, sure, a decent offensive player. I think he was around 15 points on a really bad Pistons team. Give $3 more million for OG. I'm really comfortable, and especially like we talked about it. There isn't much else that we can do right now, and going forward with a core of Pascal, Fred, and OG, I'm comfortable.
Okay, so what's next for Raptors? I mean, I see 5 is still an area. There's an opportunity for them to improve, right? I mean, if they want to take the next step, and you truly want to contend, you want to talk about being the top 4 in NBA. What do they need to do this year, and what do like you said, and like someone might be available in trade, but what do they do about 5 right now?
To be honest with you, I think the 5 is one of those positions where I don't know that you really need to spend big money on a 5. Like, $205 million for Gobert. He's a little bit limited offensively, especially for what today's NBA is. I don't know that the Raptors necessarily are going to need. Not that they would be able to go out and get anybody like that. I mean, maybe they could through the trade market, but I don't think that you really need to do anything at the 5 right now. I think you stand firm. Let's take a look and see what we have. See how the core comes together. See how they play. Don't do anything, and I don't think they would. But just don't do anything. Don't make any knee-jerk reactions. Let's just see what we have. Let's see if OG can give you something, and let's see what this core looks like going forward.
Mm-hmm. It's good to be a Raptors fan right now. I mean, I guess Siakam's entering prime, and You've signed OG, a couple of good young kids. Should be fun.
Yeah, I think right now is one of those times too, though, where it's easy to be a little bit nervous at the same time because you know that Giannis is no longer a possibility. You've given Fred a big contract, and you need to see does he take a little bit more of a step. You have Lowry who's aging, Pascal coming off that rough playoff, so it's good, and at the same time, I think there are a lot of nervous fans, even some who they look at the OG contract and they think, let's see what happens. But I was talking to some friends, and they're not entirely convinced that this is going to work out as positively as I think. But it's going to be one of those transition type years where you're just figuring things out and seeing what you have.
Yeah, and so let's see how that goes. Raptors game 1. When are they playing?
Tomorrow against the Pelicans, so the 23rd.
Yep. So the opening night today, Golden State lost to Brooklyn Nets. Clippers playing Lakers right now. So yeah, it should be an interesting season. So fingers crossed, and we'll see how Raptors do this year.
Yeah, and I do want to say I was watching that the Golden State Nets game, and I know everybody's going to be saying this. I'm sure Twitter's blowing up. I'm sure like everybody, like media, everybody. The Nets looked really good when I stopped watching, and I stopped watching because I think it was a 30-point game. Kyrie had nearly 30 points. Stopped keeping track. I was looking at my phone a lot more because it was a tough game to watch. Golden State might have a rough year, but again, like keep in mind this is the first game, and I know it's easy for people to kind of just crown the Nets the champions because of their roster. Their roster does look really good, but let's see what happens. Let's see if they continue playing like this. Let's make sure they gel before we crown them champions. But they look really good.
Nice. Awesome. All right. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about Barcelona.
Okay. And I want to say, guys, we haven't prepped for this at all. Like we kind of just threw this together last minute. So let's see where this talk goes. Barcelona is an interesting case. I was thinking about it today and kind of getting my mind ready for what we're about to talk about. It's like, everybody is really panicking about Barcelona and where they're at right now. But then you look at the standings. Yes, they're 5th. And in a year where, it started off with Messi apparently leaving and then Messi coming and then, the stepping down of their president. And it's been a terrible year. And the fact that they're 5th and still like the chances of them winning the championship are slim to none, but they're still sort of in the race. So the fact that this is a catastrophe year, I thought it was going to be a lot worse. I'm not sure there's cause for concern going forward, but I don't think this year is as bad as people are making it out to be.
But is it because the La Liga is kind of all over the place right now? There's no clear dominant force. It's also a factor of other teams not being able to step up, Real not being the same Real, rather than Barcelona not being a disaster on its own.
Definitely. I'm pretty sure a lot more fans would be a lot more upset about this if Real was running away with the league, because seeing them at the top of the league while you're struggling makes things so much worse. So yeah, that's absolutely part of it. And I don't know if, and we talked about this before, I don't know if all of this is COVID driven or it is really the fact that, some of these teams are in transition. Real has struggled. Real Sociedad has looked good, and they came out and they lost to Barcelona as well. So it's I don't know what to make of this season, and I like, what are your thoughts? Because I'm obviously coming at this from a very Barcelona biased point of view. What do you look at when you see La Liga?
For me, it's always exciting in La Liga when I see any team other than Real or Barcelona being at the top. It's been like, 5 times this century that a different club has won the La Liga. I haven't seen a whole lot of Barcelona, I'll admit, but whatever I've seen, it's very inconsistent. And Champions League is out of question for them, it seems at this point, right? I saw a couple of young kids, first few games, they look good, and then I mean, being young kids that they are, I saw a lot of inconsistency at times. Um, so yeah, for me, it's a lot. Personally, I think it's a lot worse than it looks. I could be wrong. It's just my an outsider's perspective.
So it's definitely worse than it looks, because when you consider the money situation of the club, that's what, that's where you start to get into the ugly side of it. On the field, it's bad. It's definitely bad, but at least the younger players are getting a chance. You're seeing Serginho Dest get a chance. You're seeing Pedri. You're seeing some guys step into some roles where maybe in the past they may not have been able to, because you got the high price tag players playing. Ansu Fati was another one before before injury hit him. And I said before the season started, like, center back was a major concern. And then you had some injuries in the back line, and then all of a sudden you're playing some inexperienced guys together, and it showed. And finally, what they did today, and it's, take this with a grain of salt, because you're playing against a Valladolid who's near the bottom of the table. They finally switched up their formation, played 3 center backs with 2 wing backs and still the double pivot, and things ended up working out a little bit.
Like 5-2.
So it's basically a 5-5-2. What did it end up being? So they had Messi and Braithwaite up top. Messi ended up dropping deep.
5-2-1-2. 5-2-1-2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 5-2-1-2. Exactly. With the 2 wing backs very much attacking. Gives you a little bit more coverage defensively, because you have the 2 deep lying midfielders who can cover the center backs. But then the most interesting part was how Pedri ended up. He was playing the attacking mid role with Messi playing up front with Braithwaite, and Messi would kind of come back and into the attack to kind of, he wasn't the number 9. The number 9 was Braithwaite, and the link up between him and Pedri. I only saw the highlights because I wasn't able to actually watch the game, but they showed some chemistry, and it's interesting because you didn't have Griezmann in the squad, you didn't have Coutinho in the squad, and I think this is the first time that they didn't force those 2 into there, and it actually looked a lot better. But again, you're playing a team that's in the lower half of the table. So what does this mean until you see it against a bigger club?
So how's Messi look this year? And if you take him out, what do Barcelona look like?
Awful. Messi, so he definitely started slowly, and he's come on a lot over the past month and a half maybe, and he's not going to be the Messi from 2011, 2012. That Messi is gone, because nobody can keep up that level of play for this long. He's older, but he's still a very good player, and he's looked great. I think he's at 7 goals now. He's very much involved in the attack. He's getting shots on goal. He's doing Messi things. But it's the team around him, and that's where, like, we talked about this before the season. Is this a Koeman issue? Is this just the club in general? Is it the players? It's probably a combination of everything. But you look at the guys that you're stuck with, and you can't do anything with it. This is probably going to be the situation for another few years.
And that's the thing, right? So let's say Messi leaves after this year, or hypothetically, who do they bring in? It doesn't seem they have the money. There was talk of going after Mo Salah. I don't think they can afford him right now. Real's looking to go after Mbappe. I don't think Barcelona will have the money to even consider something like that. So where do they go? I mean, do they just stay irrelevant for a few years? Can they even compete? Like seriously challenge Real over the next 4 or 5 years?
So this is the funny thing. It's that, I don't know if you heard, but at one point they had to borrow money from Goldman Sachs in order to cover their wage bills. They absolutely don't have the money, and this has been rumored for years. My personal opinion, and I'm pretty sure that this is not an opinion shared by most Barcelona supporters, I come at this from kind of the North American viewpoint, I guess, of you don't just throw money at a problem to kind of solve it. In the NBA, in the NHL, sometimes you have to struggle for a few years to build things up. I guess it's not the same in football. It's a little bit different because the top teams are the ones who typically spend money. But I would like to see them spend it in a smarter way, rather than the old regime who just Griezmann, Coutinho. You're picking up all these high-priced players without considering, do they even fit into the squad? You have so many players who fit into the same type of role, and there was never any consideration to how are these guys ever going to fit together. Like the fact that we got rid of Suarez in the offseason and we're not really left with a true number 9 is ludicrous. Like that shouldn't happen at a club like Barcelona, but it has. I prefer building through the youth academy, bringing some of these kids up, letting them play as they're kind of doing right now. And just letting things play out. But I don't think you'll hear a lot of Barcelona supporters say that because they don't want to see struggles for 3-4 years.
Yeah, you know what? And if you have the flexibility, you can still build it through academy, but still keep bringing in players and be competitive. But at a certain point, something's got to give, right? I mean, Coutinho was a terrible spend. I mean, it was great for Liverpool. It was insane amount of money that they paid. Like it's just ludicrous, right? And if you're talking about smart money, for that much money, like Liverpool got Alisson in goal, they got Van Dijk, like they made a lot of smart choices. But like Barcelona, yeah, Griezmann wasn't a good fit for a couple of years. Like early on, for a good part of his tenure in Barcelona, he's never been a great fit. Like
all of it, the entire
right?
tenure.
Exactly, right? I mean, if I'm being honest, yeah, you're right. Yeah, again, Coutinho was a disaster. You've held too long to some of your older players out of legacy, or PK's been around for way too long, and I understand the sentimentality behind it, and everything. But at some point, you have to make a decision. And this comes back to like, is the ownership structure an issue, or is it's not going to change anytime soon? But is that an issue as well, or no?
So with the way things work, if you get the wrong person in as president who sees things in the wrong way,
mm-hmm.
you're going to set the club back many years. And if you're spending poorly the way they have for so many years, you see to the point where you're borrowing to pay your wage bills. It's not going to change because this is the club. They're owned by the members, and they vote on a president, and this is how it is. And there's the election coming in January, but it's tough. Maybe this doesn't work anymore. Maybe that's not the way things really work in 2020. But I mean, I wanted to get your opinion because being a Liverpool fan, Liverpool had some lean years.
That's an understatement. You know what? You're absolutely right. So, they've had good years in a way that they won the Champions League, then they made another final last decade, right? But if you look at it purely from a league perspective, because Champions League's slightly different, but if you look at it year in, year out, they weren't a very, very successful club, right? I mean, here and there, they had a few good years. But that was just a base of players having those good years, and then they ended up having a pretty good season rather than having a really good system. The good things I liked. So let's say when Brendan Rodgers got sacked and Klopp came in, the whole team is different now. They've made some really shrewd signings. They've put together a system in place. But what I really liked is over these past 4 or 5 years, you've seen a lot of young kids coming up from the academy and stepping up as well. So yes, they got Mo Salah. Yes, they got Firmino and Mane and Wijnaldum and like pretty much everyone. Like majority of the guys, they did get over the last 4 or 5 years, right? But they also put enough effort in the academy, and they're bringing guys. And this is especially the year where you're starting to see the fruit of some of that hard work behind the scenes. I was convinced going into the season, because of COVID and how condensed the season is going to be, that the team that's best set up to win the Premier League was Manchester City. One, because they had the depth, because they can easily put two teams together technically, and on top of it, they have the money to spend. So I was convinced that this would be the season for teams that would have that A, depth, and B, money and willingness to spend. But Liverpool, I mean, if you look at the series of injuries they've had this season, right? I mean, Van Dijk goes down, probably the best centre-back in the world right now. Thiago's out, he's hardly played. Salah tested positive for COVID for a few days. They had like 7, 8 top guys from the first team injured, and now they're still at the top of the table. And a lot of it has to do with the young kids who are coming out from the academy, right? So last 2-3 years, we saw Trent Alexander-Arnold becoming one of the best right backs, at least in the Premier League or in England. But this year, Curtis Jones has stepped up in a big way. He's played really important minutes for the team. He's played really well. He's held his own. Like, if you can easily make an argument that if you're putting down your best team right now, he would be one of your midfielders starting every day. He's been that good, and he's 2021 right now. Reece Williams has come up and he's done reasonably well. It's a lot harder to be a center back, when you're young. You can get figured out pretty easily, but I think he's done well. Gomez went down. He was young as well. So overall, I think that's where having that system in academy comes into play. It allows you, and that's where Liverpool haven't had to worry about spending that much money, even after going through 7, 8 core guys being injured at some point of time this season and still holding their own at this. And knock on wood, I mean, let's see how long that continues. But and that's why it's important, and that's where I think Barcelona needs to take a step back and see, you need to bring guys from the academy. You'll have to spend to stay in the top 4 and be a competitive team, and so on and so forth. But at some point, who's going to want to come and just, if you're really talking about getting top guy, like you're not winning Champions League over the next 3-4 years. So you have to take a step back, build. Doesn't mean that you tear down. Like, that concept doesn't exist like it does in NBA or hockey or anything else right here.
Oh, thank you.
But because you still have to be top 4. You can't strip down to bare bones, right? You need Champions League money, otherwise
you need the money, right?
Right. So I mean, but at some point you have to focus on the academy, and if you've committed to Koeman as the long-term manager, then you have to go back and put the same system in the academy. Make sure that the kids are ready to play at that. Like, you've got to make sure that whoever the manager is, that philosophy goes top, like all the way down, right? Because if a kid has to come up and contribute for one reason or another, he has to know the system really well, and I think that's really important.
So, and I was listening to the Barcelona podcast. I don't have enough time to watch, the Barca B or the lower levels at the Barca Academy, but by all accounts, the academy is still fairly successful. They still have a lot of talent there. I think right now what's going on is, first of all, like you said, there's a disconnect right now between the style that's being played at the top club and what's being played in the academy. Also, I don't like, you're not really giving a lot of these kids a chance in any kind of, sometimes you'll get a King's Cup match, but right now you have young kids who are being thrust into prominent roles for an extended period of time. And I think in Liverpool's case, where you mentioned you had some injuries and guys were able to step in, but by and large, it's not for an extended period of time. I imagine it's, spot duty, get some time, and then eventually you get your Salahs, you get your Van Dijks that end up coming back and taking the role on a regular basis. But if you look at Barca, like, they have a bunch of guys who are right now in roles. Mingueza, Araujo, Longley shouldn't be playing regularly. He's not that type of player. I think they overestimated what he's capable of. PK got hurt, and you've got guys who probably aren't ready that have to play in these roles for extended periods of time.
Yeah, that's fair, and that's the case for most of Liverpool players. I think the only two I can think of who more or less have cemented themselves pretty much, like Curtin Jones is like probably now a bona fide starter, despite being a 19-year-old. So he's one who's taken that step. But for the other ones, yeah, it's mostly been spot duties, right? Reece Williams a little bit here and there. But yeah, but for the most part, yeah. But that's why if you're coming to play a spot, like perform a spot duty, you got to know the system. You got to know what the coach is going to ask or need from you. You can't play a different system down there and come up and say, because if you think about it, like Liverpool play a very high line. You have right backs and left back Robertson and Trent who basically drive up the play out, you like they're the ones who take the ball forward. And most of the time, the job of the midfielders is to press and probably win the possession back. Like it changed a little bit during all the injuries and everything, but for the most part, that's the system. And if you have someone playing a very different system back there where the midfield is creating chances, like the kids are going to struggle. So, I mean, and that's where there's a happy medium, I guess. There's a balance that you have to have, right? So,
yeah. And if you look at Barcelona, you had Fati in a prominent role, and he ended up taking it and making it his own. Pedri, similar situation, has done the same. But to expect, it can happen with a couple of guys here and there throughout a season where really young guys end up stepping up and starring. But for Barcelona, where you have now it's like 5 or 6 guys that you're expecting that from, like the chances of that working out in your favor, slim to none. And that's the issue they've been having. And it isn't necessarily that they've looked bad all game. In some cases, it's you make that one mistake and it completely changes the game. You fall asleep on a set piece, which they've been giving up a lot of goals on corners. You fall asleep on a set piece, you give up a goal, there it goes. You give up an early goal because of a miscue, late goal. Like it completely changes the tide of a game.
No, absolutely, 100%. So speaking of young kids, I know we didn't talk about this, so let me ask you. You've been following up Canadian kids in Europe, Jonathan Davis or Alphonso Davies, or have you seen any of them lately?
No, you know what? So and let's get into this also. Actually, I haven't been watching as much soccer as I probably would have in past years, and I don't know what it is. We've talked about this with basketball. I think I've mentioned it before with soccer, but it doesn't seem the same to me. Even MLS, like I know a lot of people like to hate on MLS. I couldn't even get into MLS games, whereas normally, you get rivalry games and I like to watch them. But it's just for whatever reason, like I can't watch games without the crowd. It's not the same for me. At least with the NBA and the bubble, I could make it work. Do you find like that there's a difference in how you're consuming soccer right now just because of COVID and just how different things are right now?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, for me, the one sport I think I've mentioned that's kind of gone sideways over the last couple of years has been football. Soccer, no, because generally, I mean, yeah, it kind of sucks not having watching it in an empty stadium, but I guess I've been so starved for good quality sports for so many months, when everything was suspended. I'm just glad it's there, and Saturday morning, Sunday morning is a pretty good ritual. I will admit I'm not watching as much as I used to, but I try to watch a few marquee games here and there and so forth. Well, I mean, it's working out fine for me at this point.
Yeah, maybe it's just a kid for me.
It's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, it might just be because I got the kid now or the kids. So maybe it's just I don't get access to the TV like during the mornings like I would have, because there's like kids cartoons playing all day. But even in the past, like I would have probably looked for a replay of a game or streamed a game. Also, the fact that EPL used to be so easily accessible in Canada before. It's because it's on DAZN, and I refuse to pay for it because I'm paying for so many streaming services already. It makes it a lot, to be honest with you, even when I had DAZN, I was a lot less likely to have to turn on a computer or turn on my phone to have to watch a game. It's completely different than just flipping on the TV and finding a game that's on. I'm less likely to watch. So basically what I've been doing is I've been watching my teams. So Toronto FC, Barcelona here and there, even that's a lot less. But anything else like West Ham, I'm not watching. EPL in general, not really watching. Bundesliga here and there, maybe because it's on TV. Same with Serie A, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, that I kind of agree with. Like, I mean, if I'm being honest, I watch Liverpool. I try not to miss. Other than that, I watched a few Spurs games here and there. I've only seen like 2-3 Barcelona games this year, really, and that's the thing, right? And for some reason, it's just my personal preference. There are certain the League One, for example, in France, it's in Syria, both of them, they just look terrible without fans for some reason, just the way the coverage is.
Yeah.
So EPL, the coverage is a little bit better on that standpoint. I haven't seen a lot of Bundesliga, so I can't say. Spain, I don't remember paying that much attention. Like I said, I've seen a couple of Barcelona games, but yeah, I can't watch Serie A or League One right now. It's just they seem too boring without the crowd piece. So yeah, that I 100% agree with. So I guess it seems that I'm watching a lot because I try not to miss Liverpool and maybe just Spurs here and there. I haven't seen a lot of Man City games, to be very honest. So yeah, I kind of see your point there for sure.
And I'll actually second that on watching less NFL football lately. Again, like same thing. I think for the past 4 years, I've watched the Dolphins. And other than that, like I'll tell, like my fiance will always ask me, "Hey, don't you want to watch football? There's football." And I'm like, "Is it the Dolphins? If it's not the Dolphins, I'm not watching it because I don't really care." I have a big gripe with NFL football and just the broadcast in general. I know people love it, and I'm probably going to get flamed for saying this, but when you can fit the gameplay into 7 minutes, but the broadcast is 3.5 hours, like it's so long and it's so boring. And that's one of the things that initially attracted me to soccer. It's at 2 hours. I'm committing 2 hours. And I know people like to hate on soccer, especially in North America, because it's slow and it's boring. But like the football is also slow and boring.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, you know what? I sat down last weekend and I thought, I'll probably watch my first game this season, start to finish. It was about 4:30, so I thought, okay, I'll watch a 4:25 game. 1 o'clock these days is really hard for me with the kid and everything. And I'm like, okay, the Bucks are playing Falcons, watch it. And I could only watch 2 quarters and then or a half, and then I got busy with stuff. It's like, when you watch a lot of sports, after a while, something's got to give.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give up on soccer. I'm not going to give up on baseball. Primarily Raptors, baseball, cricket. So football's got to go because there's one day I have to give back to the family. Like I can't watch soccer Saturday, Sunday, and then all of Sunday watching football. It's just not good for the health of my marriage. So,
but if you were to give up on cricket, you would save yourself 3 days with one match, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, 5 days sometimes. And, I mean, the worst thing about cricket. So I mean, I was watching the T20 games, Pakistan, New Zealand, full house, amazing. So those are 3-hour games. But when you're playing in New Zealand, the game starts at 1 a.m, and my wife's like, and they lost the first 2 games, and she's like, "Is it worth watching?" I'm like, "Yeah, still it's good." No, but at least cricket. I like sports that have, well, all sports have nuances. Let's be honest, but I like the kind of matchups you have in cricket and baseball, and that's why I like soccer as well. People think it's slow, but there's a whole lot going on, right? Again, and that's what I don't understand a lot of people in North America when they feel that soccer is boring. Like you talk about, hockey and basketball and hockey, and you talk about describing players that, he needs to learn how to play when he doesn't have the ball. Well, that happens a lot in soccer too, and you just got to watch for it, right? And look for it. And small turns can, force a different pass and things like that. So I enjoy soccer, so I don't think I'm going to give that up. So too bad it was NFL. I mean, I'm thinking maybe if I come up with a routine, maybe I can try to be semi-regular with Monday Night Football. Maybe. Let's see.
To be honest with you, it was a lot easier to watch NFL football when I was playing fantasy football.
That is true.
Because you start paying attention to other players, right? Remember, there was that one year or a couple of years where we were in the same league together. And yes. I remember we were working in the same spot, and like every Monday we'd come in and start talking about, this. Exactly. I think it was Devontae Freeman who was constantly going off you.
Yes.
I
years
kept
ago,
waiting for
what
that shit to
happened?
drop. I'm like, there's no way this guy's going to continue doing this. And he kept on.
Yes. No, those were good times. Yeah, you're right about that for sure. And that's why I only like football. Like when it comes to fantasy, I only like football. Set up your lineup once a week and you're done. I can't do daily lineups and stuff with other sports. I tried baseball. I sucked at it.
Which is surprising because you're such a baseball guy, and you're a baseball numbers guy specifically.
Well, that's the thing. Again, for the health of my marriage, I can only spend X amount of time on sports. So it's not like setting up a lineup every day in baseball. It's a lot, right? Especially if there's like if a pitcher goes down, someone else comes and you have to make adjustments. I'm too lazy for all that. It's easier, Football, you set up your lineup on Thursday maybe, and you're good until next Thursday.
You know what, though? The problem I had with football was I was in this one league where players cleared waivers at 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning.
Was it our league?
It was our league, actually, and there was another league at the same time.
It was a Bigfoot league, right? So
yeah, so what I would actually end up doing is I would set my alarm. I can't remember if it was, I guess it was Tuesday at like 5 in the morning.
Yes.
I would set my alarm. I would roll over in bed. I'd already have it in my mind who I'm picking up. I'd roll over, make my moves on my phone. I'd see my fiance wake up. She'd be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I just got to make a couple pickups. Hold on." And then go back to sleep. But like, honestly, you do that. You wake up at 5 in the morning and then you're getting up at like 6:30 anyways. You end up feeling that.
Yes, for sure. Oh yeah, I remember. Those were good days. ESPN leagues. I enjoyed ESPN leagues.
Yeah, I'm more of a Yahoo League guy. I just like the layout a little bit better. I like the app, but the ESPN League was fine too.
I will be honest that I do play hockey regularly every year, but after the first 3-4 years, I've learned that if I let Autograph pick my team, I do much better. So I usually go with Autograph. I'm like, stay out of my own way, and I think ever since I've autodrafted, I've ended up in top 3 every year.
I'm wondering about the quality of the fantasy players in your league, though. If they're letting an autograph team finish top 3 every year.
Hey, best player available all time, every time.
It's the best. It's honestly the best way. If you have no idea what you're doing, it's definitely the best because you're gonna end up screwing yourself over.
After 5 rounds, I have no idea. After 5 rounds, I have no idea.
Yeah, me too. I played once in the past 5 years, and I was terrible, and I'm pretty sure I stopped paying attention halfway through.
Okay, so. But yeah, so I think that's good content for our episode today. So
yeah, that about does that. I don't have anything else. Hopefully, I think what we'll probably end up doing, just to let everybody watching know, is we probably won't be back for a couple weeks with the holidays. We'll take some time off. We're going to be working on getting some more guests in soon. So look out for that. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. If there's anything you want to see, just let us know.
Yeah, and please subscribe to our channel on YouTube. You can click the bell icon, and whenever we post something new, you can be notified. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well at Box and One Pod. If you prefer to listen to the audio, we're available on Google, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, and a whole bunch of other platforms as well. So if you have any ideas about what we should be talking about, please send us an email our way, or just tweet at us, or send us a message on Instagram. We'll be more than happy to take your suggestions.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever shared this, but the email is boxandone, and it's ONE pod@gmail.com. If you want to just reach out and say what's up, feel free to drop us a line, and we'll definitely respond because we got nothing better to do.
All right. Thanks for watching, and have yourself a great day.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. See you next time.
See ya.